Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another episode of Naked Sunday. I am your host, Caleb Nelson, and I have the radiant, the lovely, the extravagant, I can't think of any other amazing words right now off the top of my head, Denise Ropp on the podcast today. I love her dearly. Denise, thank you, my friend, for being here with me, sharing some time and some space. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And the love goes right back at you, Caleb.
All this, you know, help me to help you, help us to love others. Let's do this thing right now.
Do
We're
it.
having a
Let's
good
do it.
start. For everybody who is just tuning in right now, it's kind of a miracle we even got the recording going because we were just jiving. Like this could have been like 3 hours later. I'm like, oh my God, we actually have other appointments and stuff to do today. So we we made it a point to start.
So too.
I don't know if you've actually listened to any episodes of the podcast, but I do start the episode this way all the time because what I do is I just like to share why I appreciate my guest. And I do this because I believe we need to start telling each other why we love each other. And I believe it's the first step in a little thing that goes along with my why, my vision statement of world inner peace. There's some double thumbs up. Here we go. Now I'm really loving these Apple update emoji things that are going on. Anyway, to that effect, I love you. I appreciate you so much just because you are positive, you're vulnerable with me, you're real with me. I've never had a surface level conversation with you. From the first one, I think I was on a podcast that you're doing. It all kind of blurs together for me right now because every conversation just is like it's like I feel like I've known you forever. And we were just willing to go there from the start. And I'm in a place in my life that I want to be around somebody who's willing at any drop of the hat to just go there. If it's good, if it's bad, if it's dark, if it's happy, if it's whatever, because I think it's a true act of love to hold space for that and to allow others that you value to hold space for you going through that. And that's what I see with you. And that's why I value you and your friendship so much. So thank you for being you.
Thank you. And right back at you because it is true. It is true. I don't do this with everybody, but for those that I kind of get a sense we might want to go and explore and be curious about all that life has to offer, then it's there's no better time than right now to actually go and do that, just to delve and get into the dirt, into whatever it is that's out there, because that's really where you start to grow and you start to see better.
I love that. I was telling my wife actually the other night, it's like, what good relationship do you have that didn't go through the shit, that didn't go through the darkness? Not a single one. I don't think you actually know a friendship until you start telling them the real shit. You don't know the test and the depth of it until it has to face a trial. You might as well get real about the darkness early on and find out real fast. I think there's just like a practicality to that immediately if you're willing to be that open and honest about the stuff. I love that I love that we're just like on the same wavelength about this kind of stuff.
Too, the idea that both of us are trying to have impact. We're not happy with the status quo. We're trying to empower people and really support them in both of our lives. That's what we're doing, helping them live their best life, helping them create the impact they want to create. And so when we're looking for partners or affiliate, however you want to describe it, affiliate friends, those of us that are on the front lines together, let's find out who you are right away. Because if you ain't that person, then I need just you're wasting my time. I'm not saying that you're not worth it. I'm just saying that you're not the one that's going to be standing beside me when everything hits the fan. Because we need to find those people. We need to find those gems that are gonna line up there with us when the fight gets hard. So you're
Truth.
right. Mm-hmm.
Let's do this. You know yourself better than I. How about you share with the audience, Denise? Who are
Oh
you?
boy.
Yeah, I knew you'd like that. I knew you'd like that a lot. Let's
Yeah.
go.
I am a complicated being. Let's put it that. Let's start right there. Um, so I've been in healthcare all of my life. I have had a passion for health and well-being for as long as I can remember. Helping, being a service, I was a volunteer. I was a candy striper. I served at the Y as a leader. So I was a Y brat for better part of 6 years. I've just been there to serve and be there with people and help them shine. I went into nursing. I was a registered nurse for a long time, 35 years, and have managed to stay in the healthcare industry, helping with health promotion because I was in occupational health, disability case and claims management. And then I owned and ran and set up clinics and have done consulting on any kind of health clinic. So whether it was a chiropractor's clinic or a integrated health now I got a dental clinic that I'm working with, and helping them be able to serve their people. And so that's really where I've come from. I've also taken the healing side of things, which I think is a big part of it. We have a real clinical side of our health and well-being, and we get caught up in it. All of the devices, all of the, what did you go for an MRI or CT scan or, a Holter monitor or what other things have you actually used? But then there's the art side of health and well-being. And I took a program that was 4 years at the time that it was its inception, which was the Healing Touch out of the American Holistic Nurses Program. And I took that and really dove into providing that side of the healing arts and looking at alternative stuff and really getting back into, what's happening at the core of you and what's really holding you back and what's supporting you and taking you forward and how can we build on that and create more. So I do a lot of advocacy with people. And I've always done that. So now I actually bill out for it, but it's like going to that party like the lawyer who's sitting there and somebody walks like, well, that speeding ticket I got, how do I get out of that? Well, that's the same kind of thing that's always happened with me with healthcare. And so I'm offering it now to more people as opposed to just being at a party and doing it, but going out and taking a real look at how people can access the health and well-being that they both want and need and building on that for them. So who am I? I'm somebody that's really interested in empowering and seeing other people shine.
I love the long story to get to that punchline. If that's not like revelation I had earlier with you, I've long thought like, well, what's the tangible result about working with me? Tangible, like you're gonna go on this journey, you're gonna feel better, you're gonna look better, you're gonna those are all fine and good. The real thing, and we've talked, I brought up spiritual fitness of late. That spiritual fitness is essentially a two-pronged thing. It's relationship to self, i.e., identity. We had a nice little chat about that beforehand. Second piece is purpose. What is my purpose in this life? What's the meaning of this life? And I started thinking about that, especially, you and I both like to talk to entrepreneurs. That entrepreneurial mind is very special. And it dawned on me, the resultant is a vision and mission statement. An eloquent punchline for this is the point, this is why I'm here, and this is how I do it. And I know on the surface that sounds really easy, but as we can just observe the journey you just took us on in so many words, the middle, like it's simple, but simple is so obviously not easy. I think you just said that beforehand. Things are simple, but not easy. And the more simple it is, the harder it actually is to discover and unveil that. And I think one of the powerful things you just did is you just took us on a journey through life in a very abridged, that's a pretty consolidated life story of work, at least. We're going to talk probably a little more about some other stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I thought there was something really powerful about it. And maybe I've shared this with you. Um, the question that changed my life was probably sixth grade. Oh my God, there's a lot of like life coming full circle right now in my head. Sixth or seventh grade. I messaged him a while back. He was my English teacher or social studies teacher, whatever it was. He wrote up on the board, "Who am I?" Leaned over on his desk, crossed his arms, and goes, a bunch of teenagers or preteens or whatever we are at that time. That's like dropping inside of your skull. Like, how do you answer that? And every kid in there is gonna be going, oh, some of that. Like, you barely even know, like, you barely
You
know
know
anything
nothing.
about anything. Yeah, you know nothing about the world. I messaged him last year and sent him a Facebook message. He does, I think he's a pastor or something like that now. That's 20 some odd years ago, maybe a little longer, 25 years ago. It still sits with me to this day. It opened a door in my head. Such three words. It's a question mark. Take you on a journey of how do I answer that? How do I answer that? That's not some shifty, impermanent label. How do I embody the essence of who I am, not in some external means, or how do I house it in external terms? Being some external throwaway thing because it can be cast aside. A label can be thrown away very quickly, or it can dissolve, or it can alter. And then who are you again? Hence all the identity crises we go through.
Well, you know
Don't
what?
know where I was going with that, but
Well, no, it's a great question. And it was, I mean, I think what's brilliant about it is he actually asked it at a time in life when you're not establishing your identity as an accountant or as, as something else or as, I mean, because of the people that I deal with in the advocacy world, many of them come to me with chronic illnesses or they're well on their way and they actually identify themselves as they connect themselves to that identity, to that, to whatever that disease state is. And that's not who you are. That's not it at all. That's, and even this morning I had somebody ask me about a particular device that is growing in popularity, and there's several in this particular genre, but she said it's been recommended to me for my autoimmune and my skin condition. I've known this woman for 5 years. I'm like going, what autoimmune and what skin condition? And like who diagnosed it? And then, you know, but then my other question was, how is even if you go through these treatments and they deal with the whatever it is that's symptomatic of what's showing up, how are you going to support, what lifestyle are you going to have in there that is going to support the inflammation and not having it come up in this way? How are you going to support that? What lifestyle changes are you going to make and when are you going to make them? And like that to me is the deeper question, not whether or not you're going to spend ridiculous amounts of money to have this particular treatment, but how are you actually going to support a healing with that? And that's a completely different spot to go. But she's now, after 5 years of knowing her, she's now sort of started to attach her identity to these things that I didn't even know she had. And I'm like, we've had lots of conversations. I don't know why it's never come up before. So kind of weird. But that attaching of an identity happens because we look for that purpose, right? Like we're definitely looking for that. But if we could figure out when we're in grade 6 that the who am I Wow, that would be so powerful because then you can live that out, and that's more around the core of who you are. That's more around your purpose. That's you'll be able to see a lot more because you're not going to be attached to whether you got a Ferrari or a Prius, right? Like
So I'll tap on one thing, then I'll come back to another. I'll start with the purpose statement you made there. What I've come to learn is that purpose is an emergent property. Hence why simple, not easy is the thing, because simple opens the door to the journey. It gives you clarity. I have a question, though, I need to answer. When you have clarity on who you are, well, now you can set off on discovering the purpose. But you need to go do a lot of things to know, have enough feedback on, well, what is the problem I'm really looking to solve? And then you accumulate enough knowledge, you have enough experiences, then you kind of have to go into the real darkness and then start removing stuff. Purpose in that moment reveals itself. Hence vision statements, hence mission statements come from that, because you have to know why and how you get there. That comes from a reflective process, which is not do more stuff, it's actually do a lot less stuff very well. And I love so to bring it back to what you're talking about, when you attach yourself and your identity to an ailment, the only thing you can do is to reinforce that identity. You actually cannot heal from that pain because your identity will not allow it. The identity and everything you set up there is designed to support that foundational persona. That's it. I have this. I am this. The I am statement is a wildly powerful thing. Hence why they've looked at bedside manner with doctors and what and how they prescribe a diagnosis to you. We had a clinic at our second spot with Cairo and whatnot. I swear to you, because I was basically, I was the welcoming committee. Forget Walmart greeters, just sign me up. I'll take care of them all. They would walk in though, tell you their diagnosis from whomever they came from before they tell you their name. That is tragic. Tragic. So what you just spoke to, I've witnessed it firsthand. And the second part they'll say is, I've tried everything. No, you haven't, because you haven't tried not attaching your identity to this thing. Now, that's a hard thing to do if they're not really to be like, I'm ready to let go of this. They have to try all the other stuff as opposed to letting, but that, which is so, we're in a strange era right now where we have bestowed our sense of self to people with lab coats and labels and letters before and after their name, not really checking in on all the stuff that they may or may not know. Like, they're just human beings at the same damn time. And especially when it comes to physical health, what most people don't know is that doctors go through all of that med school and take maybe a one class on nutrition. Maybe they are, people don't want to hear it, bought and paid for by pharmaceuticals. It is what it like. That entire system is predicated on symptom management. I see a symptom, I give you a thing. They're not teaching you how to holistically resolve your lifestyle. And go figure, guess what you get? You get somebody who walks in, they don't ask you your name. They don't spend more than 5 minutes with you. They look at your chart, barely look up from the board, write you a script, hand you, walk out the door. I see you nodding your head right now. You're like, yeah, it is across the board. So the stuff we're talking about, what you like, especially you playing advocate, I think that's a beautiful term. You're advocating to give somebody the tools or the knowledge that they need to know so that when you walk into this space, when you feel like garbage and you're essentially like scared for your health or your life or whatever it is, like deep down psychologically, you're empowering them to navigate a very tricky space. So they're not like, they don't, I mean, how much money could somebody spend if they get the wrong perspective?
And
I
you're
you
right
tell
on
Ty,
there.
you growl about it.
You know,
He's got to make his
I
daily
love
appearance.
him. Oh my God, he's so adorable. Hey, baby. Um, you know what, you're right on there. And one of the other things that I do often is I'm giving people scripts of when they walk into the doctor's office, the right things to say. And we get this all the time. And I've role played this with people all the time, where it's like, okay, I'm going to play the doctor and I'm going to walk into into your appointment. And the first words out of my mouth are always, how you doing today? Well, if we answer that, I want to just put a pause on there. A doctor literally has, in Canada, we've got 7.5 minutes. The doctor literally has 7.5 minutes to establish trust, do an assessment, come up with a diagnosis, and develop a treatment plan. Like, right now, if it's pharmaceutical, it's that tree. They're going down, okay, that, like, this is where we're going. But that's basically what they're trying to establish the second they walk in the door. And North Americans are real good about putting on a face. We just, we put on this face. So we will typically answer that question with, oh, today's good. Like, I'm doing well. Well, the doctor is already in assessment mode. So anything you say after that, the doctor is trying to get that uh, that similarity happening, that he's going, okay, well, okay, so the pain's not bad, this stuff, that, like it's not as bad as it sounds, because they just said they feel good. And this is more about I will give people a script. And an example of that is one of my patients, workplace injury. He called me up and frustrated, and I knew that he was misdiagnosed right off the top. It was a misdiagnosis from, whether it was a physiotherapist, that's who he saw first, and then he went to his doctor, but it was a misdiagnosis. So he said, you know what, I've been doing the exercise, I've been going to the workouts, I've been doing the treatment that they've recommended, blah, 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 and it's not getting any better. What do I do? How do I do this? And I'm like, so what you have to do is, the first thing he's going to say is, how you doing? And then your answer needs to be, and now I'm dealing with he's late 30s, early 40s. And I had to get him to put his ego aside. Okay. That was my first, you're going to listen to me and you're going to repeat exactly what I say. And we're going to practice this until it just flows out of your mouth. And he's like, meh. Anyway, I said, you're going to say to him, well, I have been doing all of the exercises. I've gone to the appointments. I'm really diligent about making sure that I do the stuff. And I've really followed everything that everybody's told me. But it's 8 weeks on now, and I'm not any better. Do you think that I could be statistically outside the norm? The doctor went, like, it was not the answer he was expecting, because he was expecting that nicety. But what he got was an educated question, a curious question, and not a labeling, and not a saying you've done this wrong or I've been misdiagnosed. There was no blame being laid there. There was an honest question about, do you think I'm either not fitting the norm, or what do you think could be going on there? And so the doctor just immediately stopped and he said, okay, well, let's go through the assessment again. And he went, instead of a muscle strain, you actually have a slip disc. Like, and the treatments are not compatible. Like, they're not the same. And so then the doctor took up with the okay, we need to rewrite this, we need to redo this, we need to change your medications, we need to. So there was a lot of change that happened, just because he asked a question that was non-threatening, that was bang on, just stating the facts, and he was able to move through it. So it's that whole idea of, he answered the question, realizing that the physician was actually in assessment mode, not in I'm trying to be nice and be that nice person who greets you and waves at you and all that kind of stuff. No, 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 I don't have time for that. I literally just need you to tell me what's wrong so that I can come up with a realistic outcome here. So it moved things along, like just, things changed, and it did take some time still for him to get better, but it changed things radically. So part of that, you started off with, you and I have always had a relationship that's been, no, if it's crap, it's crap. If it's great, it's great. If, those kinds of things, if we're progressing, if we're not progressing, where are we stuck? So you and I have always had that kind of relationship where we're 100% there for each other, as opposed to creating this persona that, people get me. Like when I'm out there, they get me. Now there's times where I have to tone it down, or I just turn to somebody and say, I am not able to filter myself today. Please understand, this isn't about you, it's about me. But it's, how can people be authentic and be, and because it's only then can they actually experience all that's out there for them. Otherwise, they're hiding behind this shield that is going, yeah, who are you? So,
Well, I think there's a double-edged sword to this. One side of the advocacy, this is where the advocacy part becomes like, there's a classic quote. I don't know who came up with it. I just was researching it again earlier today. Fitness is the gateway drug to personal development. And the reason why that is fundamentally is that in order to get physically fit, you must take full accountability of everything, from the food that goes in your mouth, to the exercise that you do, to the sleep you get, blah, 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 blah. It's probably the most fundamental form of entrepreneurship that it can be. I am going to build this business of a body. So on one hand, the individual must learn how to advocate for themselves, because guess what? Not fair. It's not a guarantee that whatever doctor, physician, healer, guru, whomever the fuck is on the other end of that thing, is going to have it sorted out. More often than not, then you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many people are in that role trying to solve their own problem. That is a real deal Holyfield thing. It's in the fitness industry. It's in all the self-help industries, therapists, a lot of therapists, doctors, all of them. Or they're doing it not because they love it. They're doing it because of some life expectations. Their parents said they had to do it. That's some heavy stuff that you need to rectify with yourself with, under like, but I can be proud of being like special with this title. There's a lot of weird stuff that comes around that. So saying that, you can accept that they're a human being going through their human journey. You don't know which person you're going to get just because they're wearing a lab coat or whatever. Maybe they got six-pack abs or whatever. Like that's a fine like start. There may be like, it tells you they have done enough, like they have a base knowledge maybe, but it doesn't mean that they have the soft skills or the intuition or the ability to navigate a tricky situation like that requires the human touch, not just the scalpel of diagnostics. That's one side of the equation. So I love what you just did there. Like, hey, I'm going to empower you with some tools to know what to even ask when you get in there, because basically you just increase their bullshit detector. Do you know what you're doing? If that whomever didn't navigate that properly, they'd probably go, you know what, we're good now. I'm going to go find somebody else. That's awesome. That's empowerment. They might not like the answer you get on the other end, but you won't waste more time with that individual. The other side, I think that you beautifully illuminated here, which is where I am very much for like a free market economy kind of health situation, is because free markets, the best rise to the top. You get rewarded for developing these skills beyond the bare minimum. You can go deeper. Like in the US right now, concierge medicine is starting to take off. Like it's not health insurance based. It's like I'm paying this person directly to be my person because more or less, think of like the classic, like you're the doctor of the town. You're that guy that you know everybody. You go to their house. Yeah, I think like the old movies, like that kind of thing. The doctor came in. We know my grandfather. He was a physio, kinesiotherapy, so physio kind of same idea in France. Dude had a some odd mile, maybe more longer radius of where his patients were for, I don't know, 50 years. He knew so many people and he went to them. And with the power of that knowledge is you see them in their living space, you see their life, you see the people they're around, you see the air, you can taste the air they're breathing. You understand. You exactly. You tell them, Ty, you bark. Um, that that's why it's coming to that because people what they don't realize when it comes to their health or any transformational journey, you're paying for a meaningful relationship, and a meaningful relationship means you can be yourself and say the stuff. So I think it's incumbent upon physicians, the other side of this equation, however you're going to do it, because if you have a soul and you really want to serve these people, you got to learn the human aspect. They're not just the stats on a clipboard. You got to know how to negotiate. You need to understand how you're using your words. I think probably one of the most valuable skills. I was just telling this to a girl yesterday. She's like just behind the desk, and I was waiting for an appointment, and she's interested in getting into nursing. I think I was just telling you about this. She loves babies, so she's like, "NICU, I want to do that." I said, "Here's a thought you should do: go invest in coaching, like coaching courses, specifically in maybe nutrition. There's one circle, precision nutrition, that the background of it is cognitive behavioral therapy. Because guess what? You're going to have to talk to people through the dark moments of their life. Huh, you should probably. And she's like, that's a great. I know it's a great idea because I've watched enough people fail at that. But like that is so powerful when you know how to ask great questions. Saying how you doing is a shitty question. That's not how you like. I know our guy, I'm our Cairo, who's like, hey, so tell me a little bit what's going on. Just a different shift. Tell me what's going on. A little bit, not a lot, just like start. But I would see people would just confidently start to tell the story of how did they get there. You would just see like the light in people's eyes. So you brought up two powerful ways for both the deliverer of the diagnosis and the person who's showing up in pain to both equally take some ownership in that space when it's happening. I would love to get your take on this. I have a real problem with some stuff around insurance because this is a big thing. I know I love the laughter around this because we might get real saucy right here real fast. I didn't know this, but insurance. So people want to think like insurance is like a free market economy. It's not. You cannot post your reimbursement rates from your insurance companies. You cannot. It's illegal. You will get fined or arrested or something around here. We moved out of network with our clinic. Why this is important for people. Physicians inadvertently, because of this, because they got to pay some bills, especially if they got MD or anything else other after their name. That's however many years of school, and we know the cost of college, it's university or whatever you want to call it. They're going to cater to what they're going to get reimbursed for because they have to live. I have a real problem with a third party who's not in the room having the conversation, essentially dictating diagnosis and dictating treatment. It's just basically an axe to grind I have about it. I just went on a long lecture, so I'm going to shut up for a little bit. I'm going to let you take over for a little bit. Thank you for bearing with me. Hopefully that mattered to anybody who's listening to this part of this conversation right now.
Well, insurance, I've worked in the insurance field. Excuse me.
You got fired up too. Let's go.
I got fired up too. Yeah, clearly that needed to come out. And I'm working a lot with that right now because I'm working with business owners and trying to get treatments that haven't been. I'm trying to get. I'm working on HSA. So and not that I get anything from the HSA, I'm just trying to make them work for the people who employ, what is it, 80% of the populations on North American soil, right? It's those small business owners and the medium-sized business owners who really slug to try and get something. And HSAs is a way to do it, but you have to go through an insurance company and you have to go through tax law and all that kind of stuff. And there's ways to do it. There's literally ways to do it. This might be a whole other conversation, but
Why
yeah, and
people hire you.
exactly, this is why people hire me. But because I've had that conversation with the insurance company, you know, just by asking what is it that you need to be able to, do whatever it is you do, and what is the stumbling block? And many times there's no clarity, there's a miscommunication, or I love this, people on insurance forms or doctors, the question will be, can you walk 50 yards? Please understand that is a black or white question. And it is 100, they want to know whether it's 100% of the time. They don't put any of that in there. So instead of going, some days, and when I've had enough sleep, and this kind of stuff, so you feel bad because you want to rationalize why you can some days and you can't other days. Their question is yes or no. And don't bother explaining, because the second you start to explain more is, then you're getting in trouble. And there's an attorney in Texas actually that I follow on Instagram. He's great. And I'll explain why. The question is, can you tell me the time? The answer is not the time. It's yes or no. We often, we got to sit back, take the time to really look at the question, what is being asked? So if you are literally looking at your watch, can you tell me the time? Yeah, I can tell you the time, I can. But did you ask what the time is? No, you just asked whether I could.
Well, I'm not looking at my watch right now, so
But,
no. There you go.
but that, this is where I'm going, is that we have this socialization component where we want to be nice, and we want to do the niceties, and we want to do a bunch of things, but there are situations where explaining more or giving too much is actually detrimental to what it is that you're trying to do, and so allowing a bit of space, whether it means taking a breath, or in the case of the insurance companies and what the doctor writes. Like I said, doctors, they're people too, so they'll and they want to get paid for what they think. I love this. This is what they think they need to write down. So I'm going to use an example here. I was approached by a lady whose husband is a dentist, great dentist, one of those guys that has got a real, love for what he does. I mean, he wants to do it so well, and he's a master at it, and he just wants to give. And what he ends up doing is he will give a whole lot, but he won't write it all down on the billing sheet. He'll chart about it, but he won't write it down on the billing sheet. And this drives the accountant nuts, because this is now creating issues in, we got all these expenses, where did they go? It's not being reflected in the billing sheet. Now, I'm just talking strictly from a business side of things, right? But what's happening is the dentist is literally getting into the pockets of his patients. That's not where he needs to be. He needs to be in their mouth, doing everything he can to make their mouth perfect so that it improves their health and well-being and whatever else, right? Get out of the pocket of the patient. They have insurance, they have health spending accounts, they may or may not, but that is a different place than in their mouth. So we see that, I see it all the time as somebody that's owned and operated clinics, and I've literally had to walk into doctors and say, I don't care what you think about whether they can afford it or not. You make the recommendation for what you think is the best, and that's it. Period. End of story. You can even write whatever prescription pharmaceutical you want. Great. Because when he gets to the pharmacy, the pharmacist will make the decision based on the benefit package, looking at them. Can we do this? Or do I need to call the doctor and say, can we change it to a generic rather than the trade name? Because that's where it makes a little bit more sense. Not in the doctor's office and not getting into the patient's pocket. That's not where they should be. People are often, they are seemingly trying to help, but they're actually making it worse. I've seen people where their disability benefits have been denied to them because they filled out the question wrong. They gave too much information. Stop. We're going to
Well, I think
implement.
what you're lending kind of the conversation to is everything is so damn complicated. It's not transparent, and it's not easy to be transparent because you're with every one of those things becomes a new decision tree. And you made it even more complicated to just go through that decision tree. It's not just yes and no's off the rip. And then, as you just said, like, and again, now you have to think from the practitioner, I got to pay the bills on this practice. There's a thumbs up. And then from the patient, you're like, can they afford this so that they can pay this thing? But that sounds bizarre. And that's why you can start to see why cash-based practices are starting to becoming on the rise, to completely just say, I'm not dealing with that system altogether. Too convoluted, too much bureaucracy, too corrupt, because the complexity lends itself to corruption. The more simple it is, obvious. And in the same token, what you're getting for, you can hold people accountable differently. And the other thing is, and we noticed this when we switched to cash based, not to say that insurance, like, and some people, sometimes you need an insurance based thing. It is what it is. Like, it's not bad or good, it's a thing. It is what it is. But that's where you can see why people who have to invest directly into the treatment protocol actually do all the things because of the pain of paying. The practitioner's like, it just is what it is, man. It's the thing.
Exactly.
This is what it's going to cost for us to take you through this journey. Okay.
But also going back to that example I used of that friend of mine who, all of a sudden has got this autoimmune disease and skin condition. But my question really is, well, how are you going to support the healing? Because yeah, you can pay all you want here, but does that mean you're going to keep paying? Like, are you going to, like, every year go back and have the, $5,000 treatment yet again? Or are you going to invest where you should, which is in your stress management, in your diet, in your, maybe, I know where she lives, and it's like one of those things where it's like, well, maybe she should live in a different, less stressful place. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that are caught up in that are, if you want to talk about the finances behind it, then you holistically have to look at more than just your income stream. This is, what else are you doing to actually support your health and well-being, to carry that forward? Because life, you've got a certain amount of years that you're going to live, and your choice is live it well or be battling, yes, it's something in your health all the time. So how are you going to, where are you going to invest for that? How are you going to actually invest for that?
You brought up something so important. In essence, what you just said, where you're begging the question, but the flip side is their current lifestyle is promoting their illness. That's the problem. And people don't want to hear that, because you brought up stress. Everything is stress. Every input into your body, into your social being, into your financial being, into your spiritual being is a stress input. You are you are only so much of a container. At some point, that container is full and then it starts to overflow, and that comes out in pain, sickness, painful relationships, financial fallouts, whatever. And you brought up the financial piece. Finance is probably the easiest way to do this, because if you look at most people's lifestyles, look at where they're spending their money, and you realize they're spending a bunch of money on distractions, on things often to impress other people that don't care about them, that do not value them for who they are. Hence, there is actually an identity war right there. Go figure, there is ailment. The sickness is not actually the problem. The sickness might actually be the blessing. It might be telling you, hey, you need to change some shit. And if you confront that, perhaps in this holistic lifestyle transformation you will go on, you might feel a whole hell of a lot better. But you said it like, so you can actually change anything, or are you just going to go back to the same spot? Do you want to take a look at all this? Like, oh, I don't have the time or extra money for that. Well, yeah, sure. You found a way to pay for this Band-Aid fix, and that was not cheap either. And you feel miserable all the time. What if you at least felt good? Yeah, you'd spend a little more money up front, but you'd probably feel a lot better for the rest of your life, and you wouldn't need to go back to this place that makes you feel like garbage. I don't know. That's up to you, though. Ownership, fitness. Oh my God, like crazy what this means. Soapbox rant over.
But this is, and for your listeners out there, my listeners who will listen to this as well, they've heard me say it, I'm sure. We are managed to within a second of our day. Every one of us. We are, we get up at the alarm. Maybe we hit the snooze a couple times, but we're managed. So we get up, we're into the bathroom, we do what we need to in there, then we get the kids, then we get the, partners, then fitness, then we've got meditation, food. What about lunch? What's the car? Got to think about what we're doing. Do I have my gym bag with me? Oh yeah, I'm meeting the girls for wine later. Like the list goes on and on. Oh, and then, oh, I need to call mom because I haven't called her in like X number of days. And we've all got this long list of things that we have to manage on any given day. Our career, our, the kids' school, the piano lessons, whatever. And it's just an ongoing stream. And if we're lucky, at the end of the day, we'll fall into bed at the right time or within 10 minutes after that we're supposed to. And that's a win day. Now, take that same day and everything's going along and the tire goes on the car. All of a sudden, the day is shot, the week is shot. And what I've witnessed in the mental health world is 6 weeks is shot. And now we're starting to go, am I depressed? Because I can't catch up. I can't get my feet under the ground anymore. I can't, crawl back to where I was. I don't have the energy and I'm like lost and I'm not getting, like, we get that whole story going on in our brain. It was a tire on a car. That's what it was. It wasn't, a chemical imbalance. And I don't want to go down that road, but there's a lot of, we just got so much going on. We're so stressed in our lives with everything that we have to do or we think we have to do that it just becomes overwhelming. And when one of those things goes wrong, it's a domino effect that just literally destroys everything.
Mm. Well, they
And
don't have the.
we also don't know how to talk to each other about that, because I could have had somebody that actually helped me with the tire, went and got the kids, helped with my mom, took the kids to piano lesson, whatever. But I didn't have a relationship with anybody that I felt I could ask them to do that. So now it's back all on me.
Well, you're speaking to people not having bandwidth, and I've been talk about this on somebody else's podcast the other day. But like people don't actually allocate space to recover or to anticipate shit going sideways. They get caught up in the I got you brought it up there a second ago. I have all these things I have to do. Nope. You think you have to do them. You don't have to do anything. You are choosing those things on your list because of whatever trade-offs, consequences, or benefits you chose, where that's the reason, which ultimately, more often than not, was from social pressure because you want to keep up with the Joneses, the classic. You fill your brim, your day to the brim, and you cannot handle it. Of course you can't when things go sideways because you didn't also, as you brought up the network before, your system is also weak because you don't have the relationships that you didn't spend the time building something meaningful and authentic where you trusted to say, hey, yo, I have a problem. Could you come over and help me out? We don't have those depth of social connections anymore. It's pleasantry. You tell me, you tell them, Ty. There's pleasantries and surface level bullshit, which is nice, but you feel like cool. People know me, but do they know you? They don't.
I'm
So
here. Yeah.
that, yeah, but that people can barely say 3 words on that thing, and it's whatever. And amidst being distracted by 7 other notifications and the social media scroll, you're inundated by everybody else's attention peeling away and get angering you and trying to sell you and whatever the hell else is going on. As opposed to what if you just built in some time to chill out? Who else is going to judge you for it? Be really focused on a few things and leave the rest of the time to just contemplate these things, to become aware of the self, to become aware, yeah, Ty, become aware of your tendencies, become aware of your stress points, become aware of places that don't align, because then you just don't do those things. Crazy idea. I don't know.
Oh, you're right on.
While you're talking about this, go ahead.
No, you're right. You're right on. We don't, well, to take it just a little bit further is I kind of question whether or not people have forgotten how to establish those conversations. They've forgotten how to actually start those conversations, to build the relationships, to actually connect authentically, and you're great at it. In that, because you just come at somebody and you ask them the right questions to actually get to that point, right? So it's I think there's a lot of people not remembering, how do you do this? How do I actually non-invasively, because we don't want to necessarily get caught up in the drama of somebody else's life, but helping them, because when they're in my sphere, if something goes wrong with them, then it's going to affect me, right? It's some way, shape, or form. So I really need to be able to have those conversations, bring up those conversations, be able to ask the appropriate, are you okay? Because it's okay not to be okay, and it's absolutely okay to ask for help. And I've seen people just crumble when you ask them that question, because they're like, oh my God, somebody, my life's a mess, right? And typically it's that one thing, the tire went flat on the car and I'm overwhelmed with everything else. Okay, well, then we can block out other stuff. But it's just the idea of who's taught them to be able to ask that question and then to be able to know what to do with it afterwards. Like, so you say, yeah, I need help. Okay, well, where do we need help? Do we need help in, family relationships? Do we need help in car maintenance? Do we need help in finances? Do we need help in our spiritual life? And that's a big one nowadays. That's huge, in that people just they don't know who they are. Like, right back to the whole start of the conversation. Who am I? That's that's a big question. And when you're getting hit with, AI and the financial stuff and the political stuff, oh my gosh, like, there's just so much out there that people can get themselves stuck in. But if they know who they are, if they know who they are in here, then they can actually make steps forward and make decisions and make those choices that might better serve them.
I love that you just said that, because if you know who you are, you're okay asking questions in general. You're confident enough in this is who I am. That being said, not an easy question to answer in the first place. So I'm not saying like, oh, just know who you are. You're like,
No.
clearly I spent however many years of my life going on that journey. Hell, Naked Sunday was that. Was the deep dive into who I am. But with that, what you're opening is like, I'm stable enough here. I'm okay however this goes on the other side. Good or bad, Tyson barking in the background, whatever he wants. I'm gonna hold him like a football for a second. This little snout. Anybody who's watching will see his little face right now. So many people are probably gonna be like, "Oh, he's on the thing. He's in the video. I'm gonna look at the video right now." Yes, there he is again. Um, when you are confident, to quote myself on social media, I believe the greatest sign of confidence is to ask a question. You're okay. You're good either way, whatever happens on the other side. Because to ask a question is to invite potential controversy into your life, a conflicting point of view, which you're okay with. It's like, cool, I'll listen to what you got to say. I think that is so important because you're secure enough in your beliefs and in your identity, which is why it's so important that your identity is not based on surface level things, i.e., your political party, i.e., your nutritional program, i.e., your job title. That's not your identity. Those are things that you might ascribe to a little bit. That's not your identity. And if anybody's wondering what I believe you should base your identity on, it's your core values. That will describe your quality of character. That is different because that can absorb different points of view because it's not binary. It opens the door to context. Crazy. But that is really what you're saying. You're willing to welcome somebody else into your space and you feel confident enough to be able to navigate that. So I love that you brought that up. And that being said, the hard part is choosing to make enough space to go on the journey to explore who you are and what you value. So if you never do that in the first place, you're never going to get to that level of confidence. So of course you're going to offload to whatever version of a messiah out there you think is going to come solve all your problems. The next savior rolls through your life, whether it's the government or some snake oil salesman or whatever person pitching anything anywhere. It's because you don't know yourself enough to say, you know what, that sounds like bullshit. Because the thing only works if it's only them. They're the only solution ever. Or like maybe they're one solution. That's a great way to know if somebody's, if nothing else from this podcast episode, hopefully we've gotten people to improve their BS detector. That would just be really great. That'd just be really great. And Ty will maybe also at the end of this, calm down, bud. Calm down.
You're so right there, and that whole idea of the one thing, and I've seen that, life has a way of throwing crap at you that if you don't get to a point where I really need to deep dive into why this, what is this thing that keeps happening? What's the theme here? Where do I keep sticking my foot in it? And how, and why, and not with the idea to blame anybody about it, because we see that a lot out there. My parents did this, so I'm, this is why I'm this way. The big news is you're over 18. I'm hoping if you're listening to this, but you're over 18. It's now your responsibility, right? It's no longer what happened there. It's now your responsibility, whether that means changing the way you eat, exploring physical fitness, getting out of the hometown that you lived in, whatever it happens to be. But the second you hit 18, it's now in your lap. So, and what is it kept throwing at you? Life will do that. And you might get to a point after several years, and I'll, put my hand up here because this was kind of my story, where it was like, what and why, and like, what's the root cause of this, and how can I, even in, the example I gave about answering questions, how can I put a space in there so that I'm not reacting in an emotional manner and not looking to, put the spikes out there and say that everything coming at me is wrong. It's really a situation where I can step back, take a breath, and then start asking those questions so that I can move to the next place and I'll tell you, doing that, it's a lot more elegant, graceful. And that, probably is one of the biggest embarrassments of, as you go through life, because you're trying to avoid embarrassment, and you're like going, yeah, no, life just keeps throwing it at you. So how do I actually sit down, go, I need to be a little bit more graceful about it so I can ask these questions and actually get more appropriate answers, so that I'm being more graceful about it, being more present about it, because I'm not being overwhelmed by whatever I think might be going on. So
Have I told you I love you?
this is one big love fest. You know that. You
That's
know
what it's
that,
supposed to
Dylan.
be.
Come on.
That's what we. You know what? I've come to this place. Whether people think it's hate or not, when somebody says they hate you, they actually love you. I had this. I still remember this conversation. This is my first job out of college. One of the other guys there, he was a coach at the place I was at for a bit. And we're sitting there in the hallway, and he said, "Love and hate are the same thing, just coming from a different place." I've sat long and hard with that one, and my ultimate reflection to that was, and love and hate are the same thing, because what they are is a desire to connect. One arrives from a place of scarcity, i.e., hate. I feel scarce internally, i.e., anything outside of me is a potential threat. Fight it. Other is from abundance. And from abundance, you can see that the person across from you really wants the same thing, wants to be loved, accepted, understood. You can see you in them. Well, if it's you, would you destroy you consciously? No, you wouldn't. So everything is love, whether we like it or not. And it might not look like it. I think that vantage point for me has helped stay optimistic and see the potential for greatness in everything in the world, because there's possibilities in that, because there's, at least in a strange way, at least there's not indifference. People who don't care at all, they're like, whatever, what are you going to do? There's nothing that drives me more crazy than people are just like, I don't know, I'm just doing whatever. Like, do you not have any passion in your life? Do you not inspired by anything in your life? It's heartbreaking to me. It's
Yeah.
heartbreaking to me when there's like nothing that you'll stand for or stand upon. Like, do you have a backbone? You got to find yourself. That's part of discovering the self. Right, Ty? Come here, bud. But
Well, do you think, I mean, I love that. I really, really love that. And I hadn't really thought about that myself, but I love what you just said. And I mean,
go ahead and steal it.
it's so bang on. No, it is. I love you. And just, you have nailed it, because fear, to me, fear is at the root of that other side of things. So, you know, and it's fear of what? Fear of that connection. Well, then we gotta get through that, because whether we like it or not, we are all connected. It's just the nature of our being and our nature of who we are on this planet, that so get over it. We're all connected. So um looking at it that way takes a lot of that fear out of it, going, okay, well, if you're really saying that, and you're really getting, like, my conversation with my brother and my sister-in-law, like, it was, we talked about a little bit about this before, and they called me up because they wanted some to talk about an advocacy kind of thing. But clearly everything I was saying was like triggering them. And they were just getting angrier and angrier. And I'm like, and I'm trying to hold a line and trying to look, I love you. I'm actually telling you this because this is the root of it. This, so you need to not go at it with the anger and the hate and everything that you're going at it, because that's just causing the friction that you're getting. You're not going to get any answers from the people that you want to get the answers from. I know you're not liking the what I'm saying, but you're not going to get the answers from the people you need to get the answers from either if you come at it that way. And they just weren't having it. So I mean, sure, give some time and we'll go at it again. But having that understanding that it is the same thing. It's just there's something standing in the way, and they're just reacting to that thing that's in the way. That's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, genius. So, and I'm going to attribute that to you, regardless of
Sure.
whether somebody else told it to you. I'm going to attribute it to you, right? So, that's
Well, the evolution
very,
of it was my tweak on it. Build on,
yeah,
as they say, build on the shoulders of giants or something like that.
yeah,
But what you brought
exactly.
up there, like, we'll take the fear one step further. Fear, I think the real thing under fear is, especially when it comes to embarrassment and all of that, the guilt and the shame, and especially if it means that you're about to go on a transformational journey. One of the things that people don't really realize about that is part of taking accountability is also saying, shit, I might have been wrong. I was wrong. It's probably the most painful words that I think I can utter. I hate saying I'm sorry. My wife and I joke about this all the time, but I'll do it because it's part of it aligns with my core values. That's the reason why I make sure I do it. To say I was wrong, or to even open the door to say I might be wrong, is what actually gets you into curiosity. But you have to dissolve the ego with humility to get to that space to go to. Because if you're thinking of this more of as a negotiating table, the problem is you're on opposite sides. My favorite, we'll call it negotiating book, sales book, but really it's a relationships book, is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And one of the things I think he describes is like, it's about getting to the other side and making it feel like you're sitting on the same side so that you're basically looking at the same information. Means you have to stop looking at your information. You already know your own damn information. Great. But you don't know theirs. And if you don't know theirs, there's not a chance that you're going to be able to get them to see yours. You have to assume you are wrong, go learn their stuff through their lens, walk a mile in their shoes, whatever that means, so they feel seen and heard. And then maybe, just maybe, they'll be willing to see your perspective. And they'll tell you were right by just doing the behaviors that you want in the first place without ever having to be right. But it takes the humility to do so.
so right. And I would like to, instead of just putting it as a personal thing, both of us talk to entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs, this is a valuable lesson for them because so many of them are, make a decision, make a decision, make a decision, right? And they have to step out of that consequence side of things, the embarrassment side of things. They have to be vulnerable to be able to, I'm going to make a decision on the off chance that it might actually be right. you know, uh, and then if it's not, own up to crap, I messed up on it. And that goes for anybody in a leadership position. They have to be able to be vulnerable enough to their team and say, I'm going to make a decision knowing I may be wrong, and we may have to bail each other out after this, but right now we're going to make a decision and we're going to move forward, because otherwise it takes too long and costs too much money to wait till I get all of the information, because that's that idea of analysis by, or paralysis by analysis, right? If you, because we can all do that. Well, I'm going to wait until I get the all of the data in. There's certain things on dashboards that you're not even asking the right question on your business dashboard. So you're never going to see the number that you really need to see because you're not even asking the right question. It's not, you're like, whoa, wrong. You're not there. So you're never going to have all of the information. And this comes because of, like, I also do workplace well-being. So as it relates to mental health. And I see this all the time because I go into corporations and they've got this dashboard and it talks about turnover and it talks about disability and safety incidences and all kinds of stuff there. But the reality is that mental health, if people have good mental health and their resilience is high and their trust level is high, you're never going to see them on that dashboard. It's just they don't measure it. They don't ask the questions that are going to be more qualitative rather than quantitative.
You know, I love that you just said that. And I would go so far as to say the fundamental problem with that is those corporations have an identity problem in that they do not know who they are as a company, and they also don't know their purpose. Again, don't know their values, don't have a vision and a mission. They don't have something bigger, and the canister that they have ultimately, when you talk about that ecosystem, that's a burnout culture. The mental frying of your clients, or pardon, your staff, at least in that scenario, the mental health stuff, is because you've created a burnout culture of people doing a bunch of aimless things that are not moving the needle towards anything meaningful. Data is just data. If it does not inform meaningful decisions, it's actually harmful to the process. It's like you're trying to get into bed, but you got a pile of clothes on top of your bed that need to get sorted. That stuff is not what needs to be there. You got to get it out of there. Less is more. But anybody who learns like some data stuff or whatever, they're like, here's a bunch of information. Like, more information, we're gonna be more powerful. Well, yes, that's true, but the right information at the right time, context, well-informed information is what's important, and is the information bullshit too. Like, that's another important thing to know. Like, who came up with this data? Did anybody really check it? I don't know.
You know what? I like to ask the question because you'll often see companies, you can go on the internet and look at their website and go for their mission and value statements, right? And they typically always have them. They've written them. But I like to ask the question, how are you operationalizing these values?
Or to go one step, does anybody on the ground level know the vision and mission of this thing?
Oh, yeah,
I
that's a good one.
guarantee that's
That's a good one, yeah. Yeah.
0.01%. And that's, people will write these really long, elaborate things. Dumb move. Why? And I don't get judgmental about that stuff too often, but I'm going to say it this way. Because if you can't recite it like that, you don't remember it. That's just the truth. And the real talk is, when things are going sideways, when you're having a rough moment, when you need to get clear, you need something that is like, it's like a cheerleader. Everybody knows the cheerleader. My wife was a cheerleader and was competitive in it, so like it makes it even better that I'm doing this. It's like they got their little chants, they got their little routine, and everybody in the crowd knows it after the first time you've done it. Give me an A, hey, like everybody knows, and you get reminded, like, oh, we're back on mission, we're going for the like, cool.
Yeah.
Like, the world could be against you at that point. Doesn't matter. Everybody in the room knows where we're going, because when you got hired, or you got brought into the organ, you got invested into it, you saw that, yeah, that's why I came here in the first place. Money happens to be part of the consequence of doing business here. Yes, we need to nourish this business with cash flow so that we can do this continuously, as in the same way you need to eat food to be able to fuel the body. Same concept. But it's, what am I using my body for, or what am I using this business for? Those two constructs must, that why, that internal vision has to be at the forefront, because if not, the purpose of it is just to make a bunch of money. clearly the burnout culture, the golden handcuffs thing, people got millions of dollars ready to go commit suicide. That's one of the most tragic things because they don't have a real purpose. That's just so you brought up something so important. You brought up something so important with that.
Yep. Yeah, so you're right on. You are right on because they do. This is where they lose hope. This is where they don't see how they fit in. They don't. They, we like I said, we know that we are connected, but if we don't see how that connection is happening, and or that silver doesn't have a consistent value. Neither does gold. Jewels, yeah, well, pieces. They're just they could be pieces of cut glass. It wouldn't matter. They sparkle for a while, they get dirt on them, then can't see them anymore. So that, all of the things that we think add value, add something, have literally nothing to add. It's just a stone. It's just, I've got, somebody gave me a piece of jade that's the size of a piece of bread. Like, it's great. But in all honesty, I'd rather much have it, on a bracelet or something else. But it's a big chunk of jade. Great, perfect. It's a rock. Like, it's just a rock. This whole idea going back to they have to know who they are. They have to have those values. They have to be, what's important to you? Is it, and is integrity important to you? Is love important to you? Is family connection? Is it supporting your family or somebody that you meet on a street or whatever it happens to be? How do you see fitting yourself into this? There's a saying that when I used to drive to work and because we all work remotely now, but I used to drive to work and there was this sign on this rock wall put up by a hospital foundation, and it said, "We're all angels with only one wing. To fly, we have to embrace each other." And I'm like, exactly. This is the only way we can actually make a real difference is by actually reaching out to that other person and saying, "You got this." Or, do you need water today? Or do you need just a conversation about, I was thinking about you just for 2 secs, thought I'd send you a text message, just letting you know I'm thinking about you. When somebody gets that, and that, when somebody gets that, somebody was thinking about me. Isn't that cool? Like, and it just lights you up, right? It just becomes a, a bit of water for a thirsty soul. That's what it is. It's just somebody was thinking about me. Somebody recognized that I had a need. They felt whatever. And I mean, you and I have had that where you'll reach out and you'll go, "I just checking in, just thought about you." And, I answer with something ridiculously stupid like, "I'm okay." By the
I'm
way,
good.
guys, by the way, yeah, exactly. By the way, if you do
In
that with
fact,
the
I think
other,
that's how this kind of conversation came about. Where like I checked in, how you doing? And then actually, your text was actually pretty vulnerable. You're like, there was one I was like, let's get on a call tonight. What's something's going on? And we did. Like then
well,
maybe an hour later or 2 hours later, we're like, girlfriend, let's have a little zoom
but
zoom. Let's have a little zoom
so,
zoom.
and then out of that, we get this great love fest, right? Like, and it's just um, that opportunity to share with someone and let them know that, you know, we can do this. And as it turns out, what you connected with me, and then, I'm able to connect you with two other people, and we get to check in about another friend. And it's one of those things that was like, oh, wait a minute. All of a sudden, one little thought, I was just thinking about you. And then no, I'm on this. That's now going to change, not only our lives, but it's going to change the people that we're connected with, this is like the rock that drops in the puddle, right? It's just that those ripples, it's going to be huge. The number of people that we're going to connect, it's creating this podcast that's going to, with any luck, well, blow up a bunch of people's lives because they'll just sit there and they'll go, oh no, I got to go back and listen to that 10 more times because, whoa, hate and love are really the same thing. No, I got to go back and listen to it. And I got to go back and listen to it. Or, gee, that whole, who am I? Let's just stop at that point. What's that? 5 minutes into the podcast, and they're nowhere near all of the richness that's come out of this. And so the ripple effect, just because of connecting to somebody else, sharing with somebody else, reaching out to somebody else, sharing my gifts that I have is going to be huge. It's just going to just spread light all over the place, which is, like I said at the beginning, my shtick is really around empowering people and letting people know that they've got a real light inside them, and that how can I help you shine? How can I really, just put a little rub on there so that you sparkle a little bit more.
That was a really beautiful and eloquent way you wove all the things together. People don't, I think, it's so often talk about random acts of kindness. I got a friend who's writing a book right now about it. He's a client too. I'm not going to give it away, but he had a really beautiful practice of how he was counting the random acts of kindness. So cool. Mm-hmm. It's led to him writing a book. But we don't think about, people are expecting, okay, you'll hear that one example, and then the first time out, you do a nice thing, you're going to have the world just move in your favor. Well, maybe it did, but you're not thinking, I moved that person's world. And that's how that starts. You shifted their day. If you're expecting your random act of kindness to be about only you tell him, Ty. Dude is driving me nuts. I love him so much, but
he manages to actually, put an exclamation point right in the right places. I'm really happy he does. He's good. Yeah.
Exclamation point. Let's go. Timing, fill the gap. If you can yourself from it being, I felt goodness in the moment for loving somebody with a small act. That was the reciprocity. You just got to feel good for a moment, and you got to open their day. You stack enough of those together, because you're cool with Ty. Come with me right now. You stack enough of those together. You stack enough of those moments together. You're eventually going to run into the person who has a hell of a lot of influence, more than you would ever know. And more often than not, they don't look like they are the person who has a lot of influence, which is bizarre. So definitely don't judge a book by its cover. That person will open doors for you that you didn't think was possible. And it could start with something as simple as, hey, how are you doing today? I was just thinking about you. If there's nothing else for the past few years from wandering off into this online ethereal space, what I've learned is that humanity, people in general, are profoundly lonely. Profoundly lonely. In that almost nobody checks in on them at all. That's heartbreaking, because many of the people that I have just said, how are you doing today? Tell me a little bit about what's going on. Something as simple as that. Married, kids, business, they are lonely in a crowd. That is dark. That is dark, that you've surrounded a world around you of people who should be much closer. And here I am with a text or a whatever, a Facebook thumbs up. I don't know. That moves your day that much. That's heartbreaking to me, because I don't feel like it should be that way. But if nothing else, I hope that it's my small contribution to say, maybe we start doing this a little bit more. Something as small as that. just for the simple joy of, man, somebody else is feeling better today. Doesn't mean sometimes your texts aren't going to be like, hey, yo, can you help me out with this? I need this. Like, and it could be super practical. You got to mix it up a little bit. Like, don't always just be like, do your thing. But I love, I just love what you were saying. That's all I really got to say about that. That's my 3 cents on that. Not just two, 3 cents.
And I think you've hit on something that's, you know, a hidden epidemic out there. Um, I remember not, well, in the middle of all of the chaos of the last few years, I remember one of my staff actually doing a call out to one of our patients. And because of the restrictions, they had literally not seen anybody for 6 months. Yeah. And they were scared. It had really sort of snowballed into a fear of answering the door when the groceries got delivered. It was a fear of even answering the phone because the messaging was wrong. And I'm not going to get into the politics of that, but the messaging was wrong. And we really do not check in on, we should be checking in on people more often than what we're doing. And from a real heartfelt space. And seeing if you can put a smile on your face. Like if that's the goal, my goal is to put a smile on your face and just know that you're smiling. Are you smiling? Because excellent. Because and it be an authentic smile, not one that you put there just because, but you're able to have, you started off the conversation with the two of us being able to have that authentic conversation just right there. We were both vulnerable, both opening up because we're curious. We're genuinely curious about, what's going on for you. Because what does life look like for you? Because it's different for me, but what does it look like? I'm kind of, one of those people that likes to have some experiences just for the sake of having the experience. I started last fall participating in an education in whiskey. I had never tried whiskey before last fall, and then I took a class. I brought my daughter to a whiskey education session, and she wasn't a whiskey drinker either. But we went because we were genuinely curious about what is this thing? And we got this whole education, and now we can at least ask some intelligent questions. I wouldn't say that we're connoisseurs of whiskey. I got a good one, but you wouldn't even think it was a whiskey. It was because it's just got a flavor to it. But and for those of you who are, aficionados of whiskey, it's a good one, and you would still like it, even though it's a flavored one. So just saying there. But just the idea of being able to savor something. Just savor a sunset. Savor the ripples of water on, across a lake. Savor, what's come up for me a lot lately is there was a movie out years ago called August Rush. And August Rush, he found music in the sounds of every day in downtown, whatever city he was in. And, so the traffic and the garbage cans and or one of the great songs was just wind blowing through a wheat field. Wow. Like just that whole idea of how are you savoring things? What does it really taste like? As opposed to just throwing something in there and because it's an open garbage can or whatever. Well, how are you savoring a little bit of life every day? What is it? And I know I go through a ritual every day where I've got a friend, and every day we call each other up and we ask two questions. Question is, where did you see beauty today? It's a great question. and I share that with a lot of people. Please, please do this on a daily basis. Do it with your kids, do it with your, do it with your partner, do it with friends, whatever. But ask that question. Where did you see beauty today? The second question, what are you grateful for today? And both of them, you'll get different answers, but it's fascinating what happens when you put that in as a consistent question. And if you do it with kids before they go to bed at night, just think of the wonderful things you're sending them off into. The gratitude and the beauty that they've got in their minds as they fall asleep, as even yourself as an adult, now you're no longer shifted from the crap that was going on today, but it's like, I saw beauty, and you're going to share with me where you saw beauty, and that's going to affect me, and I'm going to share where I saw beauty with you, and it's going to affect you as well. And it's the same with the gratitude. We share that, and again, it starts to spiral and starts to grow. And the funny part is that my friend, sometimes I'll get a picture at 10 o'clock in the morning. Our call's not until after dinner, but I get a picture at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's where he saw beauty. That's where beauty was today. And that's for the conversation later, but it's like, wow, what they've literally got up in the morning, and they're actually mentally thinking, I got a phone call with Denise later, and I have to answer the question. So you're already thinking about it from the second they get up in the morning. My daughter, like I said, I do this with my daughter as well. Where did you see beauty? What did you know? And she does it with her partner. And it's just that whole idea of making that spiral. And it's just, I hope it's creating a better world, because I'm hoping that the idea of beauty and gratitude is now beginning to live out in other people's lives. That's what I'm hoping. But I get to experience it every day, regardless of what their story is. I get to experience it every day.
Fuck, I love you with everything that comes out of your mouth. It's genius. I think something that's really important, what you're saying, and why you said, do that every day and your life's going to change. This is why what you said is so important. When it becomes expected that you're going to have to answer that question routinely, you start looking proactively for good things that are beautiful and things to be grateful for throughout your day. Your mind will solve that. It's like saying there's a difference between, like in coaching, one of the things you don't do is tell somebody not to do something. Why? Because say, don't think about pink elephants. Well, the only thing you placed in their mind was pink elephants. So all the thing they can think about is pink elephants. You can't not think about them. Tell them instead, hey, I want you to think about a blue bird. Oh, blue bird. Nice. And I can see it. And then classic, wow, I went shopping for a new car. And now I see that car everywhere. It's like everybody has them now. You start seeing beauty. There's beauty everywhere. Wow, there was beauty there. There's beauty there. There's beauty there. There was something to be grateful for here, everywhere. And figure that's going to snowball into your ability to see opportunity, your ability to see a place to connect with somebody, your ability to see beauty in the darkness in a sad moment, because you're conditioned. The muscle of doing that every day is going to do it, whether it's a bad day or a good day, you'll see it. For the lows, and it will amplify the highs. And I love the two-pronged question. There is something I brought up, and I think you'll enjoy this, and then I do want to get to our rapid fire fun questions, even though it's not going to be really rapid fire. I was part of an outfit for a little bit, and they do the business consulting stuff. But one of the cool things that they did that I had learned from them, 3 questions, and we've done it in my private group. You start the meeting, a weekly meeting, the final week, you do 2 meetings a week. The beginning is like more like metrics and stuff like that, kind of like what's your task and your goals, like practical. The end of the week is win, lesson, and gratitude. You let them answer. They will celebrate their wins. You get real good context on what they care about, what they're happy about. Guess what? That's probably where you want to start validating. If it's always about like some type of thing, probably how they like to feel love. Lesson, gratitude we just talked about. Gratitude, you can always find, like, people just are happier people when they find gratitude. I think lesson is a deeply important way to phrase it, because lesson comes on the other side of failure. So it's a contextual way to say, how did something go sideways and how did you proactively solve the problem or see a potential solution? You get people conditioned to this. They're proactively thinking about, how did I win? They will make a win out of almost nothing, which is awesome because they'll still have a good day no matter what. And you tell them, Ty, the lesson, they will start thinking proactively, how did they come to a solution from a place when they answer it, they didn't have to feel judged. They got to prejudge themselves, figure out how they can get a win out of it so they can look good for their solution. It gives you context of how they think through problem solving as well. And it opens the door to getting more information. And then gratitude puts a nice little bow on it. What are you grateful for? So anyway, just a little organizational stuff. People can use that in their coaching if they are a coaching practice, something like that. Use it with your clients, use it in your group calls, whatever. Go for it. I took that. I did some like led like I was a leader of the coaches for a company for a bit. After 3 weeks, they looked forward to this so much. It changed the culture. Just from that. Just from that, you get people talking about stuff. You find out about their kids. You let that be about family. You let it be about anything. All of a sudden, people feel seen and heard, and you didn't have to do a damn thing. Crazy, crazy how that happens when you let people be themselves. Huh? I don't know. Anyway, I loved your thing. Beauty. Where did you see beauty? What are you grateful for? That's going to be a snippet, by the way, for the teasers, whatever. Let's roll into questions. Question number 1. Sports or activities did you play when you were young, when you were a kid, and how did you play them?
Okay, so I come from an era where, we were sent outside when we finished breakfast and we were come back in when the lights turn on, right? So we had tree houses, we had bicycles, we had and in the tree houses we had tables, so there was a lot of role playing that went on. We did, we did all kinds of things that were just about growing up and being involved in the world, right? So and we play them just like we were acting out the whole thing. Like it was just totally get out there and do that. And that really led to the curiosity of well, what's around the corner, or what's out there in the woods or whatever, so because like I said, we were brats. We were all out there, and I was in a small community that was mostly a rural environment. So a lot of my friends were all on farms. So, we'd go play in the barns and in the attics and the, spider webs and the worms and the mushrooms and yeah.
So, love your answer. I will give you a little backstory as to why I asked that question.
Mhm.
Perhaps you already saw where this is going just by your answer in and of itself.
I'm like, oh my God.
College, I studied kinesiology. The college I went to, SUNY Cortland, one of the best in the country, if not the world, for phys ed. One of the classes I took, we had to do a segment on play. For the record, I've struggled with free-form play my entire life. I'm kind of figuring out what play is to me now. In creative, whatever, without but play is a great indicator of how you do things, how you problem solve. So how you play your sports, how you like what role you play on the field. There's a lot of things. What you answered right there, what that told me about where you're at in life with what you do came out of your mouth. We role play. I You just described what you did with a client earlier. I wrote out some script and we practiced what you were going to say, and I was going to play doctor and you were going to play this and we're going to do the thing. But you also brought in, it was with the local community and what's coming around the corner. And it ultimately says like, hey, we're kind of taking care of each other. So I think the beautiful part of that question about when we're a child,
Yeah.
a lot of life is about coming back to that. And if anything, you probably have been doing that all through time. Just how do you become that advocate? Through like,
Yeah.
how do you make it into the thing? So that was really cool. So I don't know if
That
you were
was
picking
really
on
cool.
that.
No, no, no. But well, I like how it fits into, we go back to where we started, like, who am I? And that really, that's part of that service. It's part of that, how do I show people, how do I connect with people? So there's community for sure. There's the role play idea, the aspect of curiosity, the aspect of just being involved in everything. So I love how you brought that around and how it fits. So because that really does describe a lot of who am I? Yeah.
I thought you'd like that. Question number two.
Right.
Desert Island movie and show series. You're going to be trapped on a desert island for the rest of life. You can only bring one movie and one show with you. What are those and why?
That's a tough one. I got two for both of them. Like it just,
You know what? I'll bend the
why?
rules. Let's go. Give
You
me the
bend the
answers.
rules for me. Okay, the answers to the movie: Princess Bride
Oh,
and
good
and
one.
and Monty Python Search for the Holy Grail. And because the comedy, I mean, but it's more than the comedy. It's just like there's just like I see so much of life being played out in the stupidity of both of those, you know. Yeah, they're just great movies, and they just about that laughing at life. Like, let's laugh at it rather than you can take it seriously if you want, and you can have your crusades, and you can, or you can, have a killer rabbit, you know.
If you didn't pick up on the deeper thought behind that, why would you want that on loop? To be reminded that, hey,
Yeah,
maybe
just to
we laughed through
be,
some of the stupidity. You
yeah,
know what?
exactly. Like, or even, the monks that are chanting in Monty Python, and they chant and then they hit themselves on the head. Like,
Why be so serious, right?
why be serious? Um, and then as far as TV shows, Gilmore Girls.
Really?
Well, it's so rich. It's just like there's so much literature in there. There's so much, there's there's relationships, and there's muck, and there's, beauty, and there's just like that, like that's life again out there living it. And probably a lot of people would just like to slow the Gilmore Girls down. So I might actually get more loops, or less loops, because I could slow it down, and it would, and besides, it's so many seasons, right? Like, I don't know, 8 or 9 seasons, whatever it is, but we, um, my daughter and I already spout that kind of stuff anyway. So it would just be a reminder of, gee, what a great life we've had, and look at all the richness, and look at all the books, and look at all that kind of stuff that's been going on, and yeah, just that whole richness. So that's one. The other one is a relatively new one that I must say that I binge watch all the time, and it's The Chosen, and that's nowhere near done yet. So it's just a fascinating story to watch and see how it's being acted out. So those are, there we go. There's the two TV shows and the movies. So there you
I love it. I love it. Clearly you can pick up on why I was bringing that out. Like things we want to be reminded of, connect to, and story. There's a deeper overarching thing that I'll wrap up at the end of the third one. Third one, probably my favorite. What's your deathbed meal? That's A. And B, who are you sharing it with?
Anybody who knows me knows that this one, as far as the deathbed meal, salmon, as many ways as you can give it to me. No word of a lie. This will get funny, right? So I had a guy that wanted to date me, and we were at a party, and he said, "What's your favorite food?" I said, "Salmon." He literally went and got all the platters of salmon and brought them all over to me. And I was like, and somebody that all of the salmon platters are right there beside you. I went, no, I didn't realize. Sorry about that, but it was just, yeah, salmon anyway you can give it to me. Just love it. Who am I sharing it with? My daughter. 100%. 100%.
So this one, deathbed meal. I think there's a lot to be said about what we would choose as our final culinary experience. The nourishment. I believe world peace is going to be solved one family dinner at a time. So that one sits with me. Because when you sit down, you do the thing. Secondary thing. Now, I don't, maybe I've told you about this or not. I officiated my baby brother's wedding a couple years ago. And I wrote a speech called The Window and the Mirror. And the window and the mirror, ultimately, there's the saying, the eyes are the windows to the soul. What if it's also a mirror? I believe the person that you are looking into their eyes is telling you something about yourself. You're looking into their soul, but it is the mirror of what you are seeing that comes back to you. And in this lifetime, right now in culture, we're valuing the wrong thing. We're valuing the youth, but the wisdom, the soul sees the real beauty that you are. The person at the end of your life sharing that final thing is a reflection of the highest version of your purpose, seeking of your purpose. They're that mirror. They're that accumulated beauty. When you removed all the bullshit, the surface, what's left is pure. Because at the last breath, there's nothing else. There's no other things to hide behind. So that's why I ask that question that way. And I'm going to go out on a limb and wonder a little bit why about your daughter and some things. So don't know what that might be, what that represents to you, but if you feel like sharing, of course, you're welcome to.
Oh, okay, so I'm tearing up here. So you just got you've hit a real spot. And my daughter, a little bit of the story behind her. I meditate every day. And I've been doing it for years. I've been doing it since before she was born. And one thing started to happen at a certain period of time. I get this message in my meditation that I'm going to have a visitor. And this visitor is going to be a teacher. And I'm like, oh, cool. So in my naivety, I'm like, okay, when is this teacher going to show up and what am I going to learn? And I'm all excited about that because it's a lifelong thing for me is learning. That's just it. And then they started giving me a countdown. 14 days, 13 days, 12, 11. And then I start seeing this path. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm walking along this path. And I'm going, okay. So every day I'm getting a little bit of a progress report. And it's, where we're at. Well, on the last day, I'm like all excited because it's like the last day. I'm gonna get to be the teacher today. And I come across this place in the path of the meditation, and there's a door. And I'm like, cool, there's a door. But then what I see is one of those, it was almost like an Andy Warhol, no, Picasso kind of thing where there's an eye and there's a lips and there's an ear and there's some hands. And I'm like going, oh, I'm pregnant. That child, that person, that being, that soul that came into my life that day has affected every decision, has affected the idea of being curious, the idea of, I have to be, yes, I'm a student, but wow, the education that she has given me and continues to give me all these years later. And just, yeah, she's been my biggest teacher. She has been, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have had half of the experiences I've had today if it weren't for the mama bear that came up in certain environments that when I went, not gonna, like, I have to protect this child, this teacher, this thing. And it brought up in me over the years a power that you'll learn. But it just brings up that energy and brings it forward. And so the reason for her on my last day is like, it's graduation day. It's flipping graduation day. And not only is it a graduation for me, but I get to see her in all that I've been able to give to her, and hope that it was enough for her. Like, that's, so yeah, that's why her. That's why, yeah, and she also understands my love of salmon, so she would be happy to bring all of those things for me. So, and she would know, well, so
Well,
anyway.
if it makes you feel any better, it's the first time I've gotten choked up on this podcast. Um, that was a really beautiful share. Wow. Um, whew. Well, to wrap up those three questions, so to give it a little personal context, my father and I have a very unique relationship. And growing up, he worked a lot and he traveled a lot for his work. And there's that picture behind me, all the way back there. That's his work. And we actually built that together.
Oh,
Anyway,
wow.
one of the most important things I realized growing up, I knew I was always loved. We didn't say a lot, but every now and then we'd have one of the things he did an incredible job of, and I never knew. And it was only until recently. It's like there was times I had panic attacks, all that kind of shit going on, just from leadership stuff and whatever. Never would have known. Once a month or once every 6 weeks, whatever it was, we'd have a boys' night, and we would go to Sports Authority, wander around, maybe get a sports thing because we talked about sports, because that would happen. Then we'd go have a meal, have dinner together, have a steak, and then we'd go see a movie. So there you go. You got to be a little bit of my knowing that I was loved without saying I was loved, but knowing you were loved all along. There was love always around you. And I hope in that, of those questions, you can illuminate all the love and the beauty and the things to be grateful for all around. So there's kind of the deeper story behind all the stuff. When you think, how many games did you play when you're growing up? That kind of stuff. Thank you for going on that little fun journey with me there. I missed it. I forgot to do that on my last one, but I'm glad I did not forget to do it here. I'm looking at the time, my dear. We're at this point right now. Somebody's listening, they're like, Denise is thebomb.com. I could use a little advocate on my side of health. Sometimes I feel a little lost when I walk into taking care of my well-being. I don't know how to navigate all this stuff, whether it's insurance or this or that. Hell, I say half these words and they're a little bit confusing to me. By a little bit, I mean a lot. Anybody who knows me, don't hand me spreadsheets and long documents. I'm going to hand it to somebody else because I do not want to deal with it. Do not expect a quick answer. If somebody's listening or just wants to talk to you, whatever, somebody connect with you.
They can reach out to me at Denise at whitecedarclinic.com. Please just send me an email. They can check me out on LinkedIn, Denise Ropp, and Instagram. I'm under DR Health Solutions, so they can follow me there or send me a message through there. That's and I'm happy to chat and just just help them see the little bit of their light and maybe shine up a corner for them. So I'm more than happy to do that and see where we can take each other. That's creating that shine, right? So thank you.
I will put all those things in the show notes. So anybody who did not write all that stuff down, don't worry. You can just go look and it will be there and nicely organized for you because I like everything's nicely organized in that. Yes, Ty, thank you for reminding them with the little bark. That's the exclamation point. Final parting words of wisdom that you'd like to leave our audience with.
It's the final words, I guess, really are don't be afraid. Like, be vulnerable, and it's amazing what you get back and who you'll find. It's really the people, if you're vulnerable with somebody and they can't handle it, they'll disappear real fast. So you don't even have to worry about what they think about you. So don't be afraid. Just be vulnerable and find your people and grow with them.
I can't end an episode on a more beautiful note than that. That was wonderful. Denise, it's like the 12th time I've told you today, I love you. I'm going to say it one more time. I love you. Thank you for being a guest here today. Everybody who's listening, again, ability to connect with Denise will be in the show notes, to go make sure you check out her with that. This has been an incredible conversation. I feel like I even evolved and deepened many of even my own questions and some of the places I went with some of the stuff today. Thank you for just being you. I just love you tons. Thank you for holding space just as much as I'm holding space for you. And again, for everybody who's listening right now, I hope you found some value. Thank you for sharing your time and your energy with us today. And until next time, I remind you to love every body.